think Bill should be MC with that hat on.
Hi everyone, it's John here, and we've got some of the great folks who are to me, some of the top minds of content marketing, and today, and what we want to talk about today is social media for content marketing. So, thanks everyone for joining us, and I'm going to just kind of real quick introduce some of the folks here. We've got Bill, who kind of really, in some ways, really brought us all together with his forum at, as you can see, forum.billbaloo.com. And I really appreciate some of the things that he's done in terms of just basically, besides sharing his own knowledge, just kind of encouraging folks to kind of try different things. So I know that Bill's probably one of the folks who sees the least use for social media, but what is great about him is he's always willing to try different things and to see how the numbers turn out and stuff. Bill, do you have something you want to add to that?
Yes, I disagree with that statement, but thanks for putting this together, Tom. It's not that I have anything against social media. No, I just have a different definition of what I think social media is. I think social media is creating your own website and allowing people to be social on there. So my website, my blog, is my chosen medium. I create that, and I want people to come there, and then we can interact and do stuff there. We can do it. We can do stuff there, and then by commenting, for example, on the forum, it becomes social, and it's my chosen method. It's my chosen medium. What I don't think is exceedingly effective, and Steve is proving me wrong on this, and I'm really happy to be proved wrong. I like to learn things. I don't think social networking is your best option for marketing. And so when you get into Facebook, when you get into Twitter, see, I'm like I said, I'm being proven wrong because Steve's making it work. So I don't think these are the best effective ways of getting your word out because they're more pushing out. They're not findable. They're not searchable. And so they work as long as you do them, but when you stop doing them, they stop working.
Right.
Whereas when you create content on your own website, it will always perform for you because if you do it right, it's always searchable. So I would definitely between social media and social networking.
Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely going to jump to Steve real quick. But first, let me introduce Miss Eileen, and definitely, she and I connected through various things with Udemy, and she's definitely been really, rocking in terms of YouTube and stuff. So I definitely I'm looking forward to hearing about how she uses that as her way to basically connect with her audience. So yeah, if you'd like to talk a minute or two about some of the ways that you've been using social media for yourself and reaching your audience.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of social media, and a lot of it has to do with the traffic that I get on my blog that comes from social media, in particular Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube, and Facebook as well. So I do a lot of networking with other bloggers, and I think being active socially has definitely benefited me. YouTube is just a fabulous platform, and when you talk about search, of course Google's #1 in search, and YouTube is #2. So, and
awesome.
Like I said, my blog, I have a lot of guest authors on my blog, and it's basic blog tips, and a lot of those people I met in social networks.
Thank you. And I'm going to go to Steve real quick, and just for a second to kind of... And Steve has been recently, of course, as a lot of us in the Bill's Forum know, that's been recently been recognized as one of the top 50 content marketing folks. And definitely, like Bill said, he's been really making Twitter work for him, and we're looking forward to hearing more about that in a little bit. But Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about just some of the things that you've been going on, and what you're looking forward to sharing with us today?
I'm going to share why everybody that does content marketing should be on social media. Plain and simple. If you're not on social media, you're missing a big trick. Google is almost irrelevant to me at the moment because I generate so much traffic from social media. And I'll share
Awesome.
with you.
Yeah,
If you
looking
want
forward
more.
to that. Thank you. And then real quick, I'm just going to recognize Morris for joining us, and I know he's working on some different things with his own blog. Morris, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're working on currently with your blog?
What I'm working on is provide a service for seniors to help them choose their Medicare insurance programs, and it's a pretty complicated learning process that is targeting an audience that may not necessarily understand the whole concept. So it's a matter of what tools do I use to help seniors understand something that's very important in their life. And so how do I get to them? And I'm in a startup mode right now, and so I'm looking at what are the best tools for me to connect to these people.
Okay, thank you. And then, so let me just go ahead and I'm going to jump real quick back to Steve, and we're going to start at this point talking about what is working today. And definitely, I know that's going to be like something a lot of us have been looking forward to hearing about how Steve's been really using Twitter to kind of leverage and gains a huge following and also much wider reach than I think any of us could have ever imagined with using Twitter and stuff. So, Steve, if you would, please take it away. We're looking forward to hearing.
Right, I'll just share my screen 1 second.
That's for you, Steve.
That's good, isn't it? Right, social media for content marketing by myself.
Woohoo!
Social media can be a powerful tool if you know what to do. If you don't, you can waste an awful lot of time. Social media builds relationships. Demographics of social media are there's more women on social media than there are men. The percentages down the bottom are current Twitter percentages. 47% are men, 53% are women. Women are killing social media. Probably because they like to talk more, but I'm not going there. Right, paid, earned and owned media. Let's have a look. Social media fits in exactly the same as content marketing, more or less. It fits in the earned. It's an earned media as well as an owned media. We'll run through these quick. This is where content fits in your own media. This is your earned. So you want to move down paid media and up the earned media. Oops, let's go back. Content does that. Community does that, which is your community that you build with social media. So social media and content work very, very well together. This is content marketing without social media. These are your traffic things from search engines and everything else. So you're reliant upon search engines and word of mouth, etc. When you introduce social media, this is what happens. Visitors and numbers come from all directions because you're promoting your content. People aren't having to find you. They're finding, well, they are finding, they're finding you where they hang out. People use social media. Everybody checks Facebook. I don't like Facebook, but I go and check it daily because that's where everybody hangs out. When I was taught sales, I was taught, if you want to go and sell something, go hang out where your customers are. Basic principle that's never changed, and I don't suppose it will ever change. This is a content marketing model. We plan, we all do that. We produce content, we publish content, and I like to promote it. Most people, content marketing people, idea of promoting content is to do the share button on their website, etc., and just link it on their social media. That's not social media marketing. That's just very, very poor promotion. This is the social media traffic model, where just like before, you have your strategy. You have to work a strategy. You have to know where your customers are and plan how to engage them best. You have your targets. You can do You can actually target who you follow, etc. So you have your target audience. Once again, you have to work out which platforms you're on, because you can't be on all platforms. That's impossible. I recommend to my clients they're on 2, maybe 3. I'm on 2 because that's all I can manage. Execution, you have to execute the plan. Then you have to measure the results and do more of what's working. This is traffic, content marketing style, and content marketing with social media. I'm at a stage now where I can, for clients, almost guarantee traffic after 4 to 6 months using both content marketing and social media. Social media traffic will come before content marketing traffic does because of the sandbox period. These are the challenges. Go back there. We have to produce good content, the same as we do with content marketing. We've got to work out an integrated approach that uses the content properly, because all we're doing basically is repurposing a lot of content onto social media platforms. We have to do the return on investment to make sure it works. Resource allocation. As you know, I'm very time poor at the moment, so I'm very careful of that. And a lot of companies are employing people specifically now to manage social media. So there's restructuring going on there. Get down to what I'm doing. This is what I do. Social media. As Bill says, my blog is the center of my social media universe. I have comments open so that people can chat to me, leave comments, etc. Because I don't see the reason in having a blog without comments. I know a lot of people don't like it, but there's tools to take away spam, and the integration and the community feel you build is well worth it. Twitter. Now, Twitter generates visitors. Lots and lots of visitors. To me, every business should be on Twitter. I don't care who you are. Think of Twitter as a global telephone directory that allows you to contact anybody without them having to like you or anything, follow you or anything. You can contact anyone on Twitter. It's such a powerful tool. And LinkedIn. I use all those 3 together. So let's have a look. Twitter. Let's talk about Twitter, since I'm the star of Twitter today. Every business should be on Twitter. It's just, I generate approximately 8,500 visitors from Twitter every month to my website.
Wow.
I tested this on other websites with other businesses and replicated similar results. So what I do, I know I can replicate, and if I can replicate it, anyone can replicate it. Twitter, there's 302 million people on Twitter. Growth rate this year is estimated at 9.1%, and growth rate is anticipated to grow for the next 4 years, with India being one of the largest uptakes of Twitter at the moment. Twitter is one of the most easily accessible ones on a smartphone, and smartphones in the US are, well, everybody's got them, let's be honest. And most people chat and talk on Twitter constantly. It's one of those apps that, Twitter's one of those things that once you get hooked on it, you're on it, and you check it in the morning, you check it overnight, you check it all the time. It's got 100 million daily users, right? Overall, it's got over 1 billion people have signed up. There's 302 million active users, and daily there's 100 million users. If you tweet with photographs, you would double your engagement. Probably the same as Facebook and all the rest. If you include media, you get engagement. And everybody, as I said, uses smartphones. When I'm out, I use smartphones to check. I don't check my emails on my smartphone, but I do check Twitter and LinkedIn. Right. Some tips on using Twitter. First, perfect your profile. Everybody looks at your profile, or most people will, when they are going to follow you. So have a good profile. Your profile should follow what other social media channels you're using, so that you speak the same voice on all of them. You need to tweet regularly. Right? A tweet, the average life of a tweet is about 8 minutes, which means that after 8 minutes, the chances of someone picking it up are slim. They do pick up for about an hour, some people, but that's because they've not got very many. They're not following many people, so their stream's really slow. But the average life of a tweet is 8 minutes, so tweet often is the tip. You have to be actively growing your account. Now, to grow your account works on this basis. You have to. The basic rule is that if I follow you, you will follow me. That's like an unwritten law of Twitter. But only about 40% of people will actually follow you. So what you do is you follow the people that follow you and unfollow the people that don't follow you. Where most people fall down is that Twitter has a stoppage when you get to 2,000 people. When you get to 2,000 people, you have to have 1,800 followers. You have to keep the ratio correct. The ratio is 10%. You're not allowed to follow more than 10% of the people that are following you, no matter how big your account or how small. Right? When I'm doing this to clients, I'll generally go and buy 5,000 Twitter followers, because no one's going to pay me for 3 weeks of my time to grow a Twitter following when I can go and spend $5 and have 5,000 followers on, and then just continue onwards, just ignoring that 5,000 that are just dead followers. That makes sense, obviously, because we live in the real world, we don't live in fantasy land. Now, you have to engage with your followers. Now, you might be sending out tweets regularly, and you might automate a lot of them, like I do. You use tools like Hootsuite, and there's various plugins and all sorts that allow you to social sprout and all sorts that schedule tweets. Some will take them straight from your RSS feed and other RSS feeds and just tweet them out regularly. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go on there every single day. I go on, I probably spend about 30 minutes on Twitter in the morning and 30 minutes of an evening answering questions and just retweeting the odd person and stuff like that. I like to retweet people that have retweeted me, because that shows them that you've noticed and they're appreciated. You need to become a resource for others. And by that I mean you have to answer questions, help people out so that they will recommend you, just as you would on your blog. And then you need to learn the lingo. If you don't know the lingo, don't use it. Simple as that. I grew my following to 100,000 people without even using a hashtag, because I didn't understand them properly. See? It's hashtags and all this, people get confused and worried, and they shouldn't. Just don't use it if you don't understand it. Alright, let's get down to the meat. Alright, let's look at some stats, if I can come out of this. Let me just change script. Here we go. Twitter stats. I love Twitter stats. This is my 28-day summary. As you can see, I've sent 4,379 tweets so far in 28 days. The tweets you send out are determined by your audience. You need to know your audience and what they're going to accept. And so I send out a lot of tweets, so my audience expect that, and they're quite happy with it. That generates 5.84 million impressions on people's computers, smartphones, etc. Basically, it's had the potential to be saw 5.84 million times. I've had 43,000 people visit my profile. That's why profiles are important. 43,000 people have looked at my profile this last 28 days. I've been mentioned 2,000 times. I've gained 12,000 followers. I'll scroll over. and I've got tweets linking to me 13.9 thousand. Right.
Awesome.
These stats are available to everybody. So free. You just click here, go down the stats, and it's there. Oh. Somewhere here. Click your picture. No, somewhere here.
That's it.
The stat. I can't get them because I'm in them. If that makes sense. Right. But then I click on tweets because I like to find out which tweets are working, which tweets don't work. Right. So there's my 5.8 million impressions over the 28-day period. Right. Tells me the engagement of each tweet, so I know exactly what's working, what's not working, which ones had the most impressions, the most engagement. You can do that for all your tweets. It lists them all. You can export these in an Excel spreadsheet. You get your engagement. Link clicks, you see, that's 8.6 thousand. Now, as I predominantly, in fact, nearly always tweet my own content, every one of those clicks almost certainly is going to my website. So 8.6 thousand people have clicked links in tweets I've sent out.
Mm.
See, that's why I do Twitter, because I can generate that, and that's climbing. That climbs month on month. See, retweets, that's other people promoting my content without me having to do anything. It's 10,000. Favorites. Favorites is like a bookmark. Someone's found my tweet interesting enough to favorite it to go back and read it later. And that's my real engagement. Is 1.3 thousand people have replied to the messages I've sent out. And that's where your tweet engagement comes in. And once you start doing this, magic things start to happen. And followers. Let me show you my followers. It's going to load. Come on. Oh, this is a new one. Ah, here we go. Alright, it breaks your audience down. See? I've got more men following me than women. See?
I got more women than men. Ha ha ha.
I'd rather be you then, probably.
No, actually, I have 74% men and 26% women. I think you're doing better than me.
Yeah, but look at this. You get your household incomes broken down. Average, net worth, occupations. Now you imagine that from a content marketing point of view, being able to target bands like this. See? I've got quite a good educated audience. You see, this is how it all works. Tells you the carriers, everything. 43% of my audience are in the US. I know that. And only about 6 or 7% are in Australia, where I am. So I'm targeting the US. Obviously, it's where the greatest population is. But my audience grew 100,000. I grew my audience to 100,000 people in 12 months, simply by following people and unfollowing the people that didn't follow me. I just do that on a daily basis. And as long as you push out original content, the secret is original content. If you've got to use curated content, put your opinion on it, right? Because if you use original content, people aren't finding it anywhere else because it's your own, and that's what interests them, you know.
So, Steve, real quick before you kind of jump to some other point. So, like when you're talking about creating this original content and stuff, I notice you're doing some different writing. That seems like you're doing it, or are you, or do you have other folks doing writing for you, or some combination? Like, what is your way to generate that content that you post? You know, like at least what, about 100 times a day then?
I post one new content every day.
Okay.
One blog post or one piece of content.
So then, but then you're tweeting about at least about 100. If my math is right, is about 100 times a day, right? Like that's roughly the. So like, how are you using like automated tweets for
Absolutely.
old links? Or?
Schedule tweets. You schedule tweets.
But then, are you using like old
Absolutely.
Okay.
Live 8 minutes, right? 8 minutes, right? Which means that I can use that tweet multiple times to capture people's attention, because I've got 100 and something thousand people following me, but they're not all sitting at their computer screen at the same time looking at Twitter. So it's just capturing attention. The secret to Twitter is to tweet the same information multiple times. I tweet a blog post title, an image, and a hashtag, which is the category that the blog is in, for about 180 days. I generate them on random, but for about 180 days I'm tweeting that same information out there so that I get the maximum amount of usage out of that piece of content. I don't want to create a piece of content, have it sitting on my website, and then it will generate traffic from Google, yes, but I want to push it to the maximum so that it's promoted and brings as many people as possible to me. That's the beauty of social media, in my opinion.
Awesome.
It allows you to repurpose your content. So I'm repurposing it onto Twitter without any real effort once you've got the automated process set up. Go to Hootsuite. You can take out a 30-day free trial, and even their free system will allow you to do most of this. So there's no excuse, and there's free plugins you can use. There's all sorts. If people want to know the plugins I'm using, I'll mention them on Bill's forum. I'm not going to mention them openly, but I'll mention them on Bill's forum to anyone that attends. So, but Twitter, what I also use Twitter for is to build my LinkedIn following. This is the beauty, you see. I'm trying to touch people on my blog, on my social media, on all my social media channels. I'm trying to get them to integrate into every part of their social media and online presence. So I will send a direct message on Twitter to everybody that follows me saying, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Not everybody will, and that's fine. I don't have to please everybody, but a certain percentage will follow me on LinkedIn. At the moment, I think I've got 7,500 first level connections on LinkedIn.
That's a great tip.
Awesome.
That's a great tip. Awesome. Thank you for that one.
No, that's fine. And I can keep going if you want, but I thought that would be about it for today.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That was just, blew me away right there, and it's going to really be hard for any of us to kind of, what's it called, to say more. But I do want to kind of jump really quick to Miss Eileen and talk about YouTube and how she kind of integrates it with her strategies for blogging, and I think that's something I know that really works for her. And then if you would, Miss Eileen, like just kind of if you can give like some of the different kind of ways that you're using it and what's working there.
Well, one of the great things that I definitely agree with Steve's presentation, thanks so much for that presentation, Steve, I really enjoyed it, is the point about your profile. And on YouTube, it's a similar thing. And actually, I was on someone's YouTube channel today, and they didn't have all of their social media profiles filled out. See, people want to follow you where it's convenient for them. So some people like Twitter, and like Steve was saying, he also likes LinkedIn. Some people love Facebook or Instagram. So whatever networks are popular for you or that you're active on, those are the ones that you want to display on your YouTube channel, as well as the link back to your blog. Now, another thing that I like to do is add a link to my blog in the description of my videos. And a lot of people miss that step as well. Getting back to what I started to say earlier, I was on someone's YouTube. In fact, I'm going to say it was PodCamp Pittsburgh, because I'm a big podcasting fan as well. And they were interviewing Crystal from Libsyn. Okay, Crystal is one of the tech support people at Libsyn, and she's just a fantastic podcaster. And when I went to the YouTube channel, it linked to the Google Plus profile. Okay, so I figured, well, I'll go to the Google Plus profile, and from there I'll find Twitter and, all of that. But it was a Google Plus page, and the only link on that page was back to YouTube. So I'm thinking,
Hmm.
this doesn't make any sense. How can you don't have, you've got the logo there, so you have invested some time in branding your channel, but you don't have any other outlets there for people to connect with you. So it's real
Hmm.
important. You're on YouTube, but you want people to be able to connect with you on your other social platforms, because YouTube is so vast that your channel may get lost there. Whereas if they're following you on Twitter, they're more likely to see one of your tweets, or especially Instagram. Instagram is a great way to, you know, um, build up your following and give people a little snippet of what it is you're doing or what it is you're about. And so that's how I'm doing it. I will often post clips of sneak peeks of videos on Instagram, or I'll also post a, the blog post image. Also, Steve mentioned images on Twitter. That's huge. So visual marketing and visual media is a huge thing now. So you have to know what the sizes are for images for all the different platforms. Um, I know Steve mentioned being on 2 platforms, and I know I'm one of those people. I try to be everywhere. So yes, I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Pinterest. And I'm very active on Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and all that. And one of the tools that I'm using that I'm finding is really helpful for me for that
Hmm.
is Buffer, because now
Hmm.
Buffer has become one of the partners with Pinterest. So now you can actually put Pinterest pins in your Buffer. So you can use tools like that. I'm not as automated as some of what Steve is doing, but it's up to a person's individual discretion to use as much automation as they want. But Buffer's a great way to go ahead and schedule up all of your pins and all. And I think Instagram scheduling is coming to that soon
Hmm.
as well. So hopefully I was answered your question, and maybe I gave you a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so one of the things I have to admit that I really agree with that Bill talks about is the idea that like whatever platform you use it to be social, use it to connect with the different folks that you really want to ideally be your audience. And so for me, a lot of the different things I use are just kind of like where I see that they are, engaging with me, that they're interacting, and it's really like just a kind of test feel thing and stuff like that. So I'm gonna just really quick here to so the next point that I want to kind of see if we can hit on is, how do you choose what social media to use and stuff like that. And I guess we're just gonna jump really quick back to Steve. Is just like what was it for you that like kind of helped you to kind of say that Twitter is going to be my thing. That's going to be where I'm going to really engage. And then you, like you said, you've kind of also post on LinkedIn. So what was it that drove like your interest and slash motivation to kind of really engage with your audience on those platforms?
Well, I didn't like Facebook, to be honest. I tried Facebook for ages, and I just didn't get any real traction from Facebook.
Mm.
So I started. Everybody had a LinkedIn account. I had my LinkedIn account then. I had Twitter sitting there, not doing anything for a long, long time. And then I thought, oh, all these people that I follow myself, influencers to me, are getting real traction on Twitter. Let's give it a go. And I studied Twitter, and I found out what worked and what works for me.
Mm.
And Twitter is that. See, I went to LinkedIn because I sell to a B2B type market. Businesses are where my audience is. But
Right.
Twitter, everybody's on Twitter. It's like Facebook. But Twitter's one of those things that once I learned how to automate it and how to grow my following, it just clicked. It's the only social platform you can actively grow a following on, if that makes sense. Because 40% of the people you follow will follow you back, and you unfollow the others. So you can actively grow. It's just hard work, the same as anything. And I've never been afraid of hard work, else I wouldn't be writing all these blog posts. It's just one of those things. You just grow your following, and it just makes perfect sense to me. And you can actually target your audience on some of the platforms. You can use search parameters to target the people you're going to follow. So if you wanted to follow people in the Bay Area, for instance, you just type their location in, and then that will bring up a list of people in that area that you would just click follow. So 40% of the people you followed in the Bay Area would follow you. And that's the beauty of it. You can target it, automate it, and, well, fall in love with it like I did.
Awesome.
Can I add to that? And I agree with what you said, Steve. And I also think that Twitter is a platform that everybody should try before if they're brand new to social media. Start with Twitter, because Twitter is quick, and you'll quickly find out if you like it or if you don't like it, or if it works for you or if it doesn't work for you, and with minimal effort. And the other thing is, all the social media tools, they always have a piece that integrates with Twitter. So Twitter is the hub, of the starting point for just about any social platform or any tool that's out there integrates with Twitter. And it's so easy to do on your phone. So I would start with Twitter, and then from there, as you find out, or you'll see trends, and there's all kinds of tools to show you, even on Twitter, what other networks people are on. So let's just say every time you see one of those influencers that you really want to connect with, you find out they're on Pinterest. Then maybe that's when you decide to add that second and third platform, which may be Pinterest, or it could be, Facebook, or it could be Google Plus.
Yeah, I think for no matter what social media you use, the key thing, of course, is that where's your audience, and recognizing and finding out, where they hang out at is really what should drive, like kind of what you choose to use as a way to reach them. I mean, that's simple, logic and stuff. The other part of it is that is the idea of whether that platform provides you the best tools to really connect with them. Like, for example, as you've kind of mentioned and stuff like that, if let's say it's an audience of people who deal with very visual things, then Instagram and Pinterest are clearly great platforms for just for that. In other words, I deal with some different folks who are in different visual arts and that kind of thing, and film, and so other than, of course, the obvious YouTube and Vimeo and stuff, but then also different times, again, because they're visual, Instagram is another great way to connect with them, and just simply because of the fact that the key things is using the ways that communicates not only where they are, but also the way that they want to connect with you and stuff. And I think overall the big thing from all that is the answering the question of that you should be able to answer whatever you use is what problem can I solve, and are they interested in learning more? That's the thing that if you answer that by whatever social media you use, that's really the key to the next step, which is to drive traffic to your blog, to whatever content you have and stuff. I think one of the things I do want to kind of start getting to is, so what's the number one challenge for you right now? And I guess maybe a good person for that is Morris, because he's kind of talking about really starting out, stuff like that. So with this, some of the folks here, Morris, what would you like to kind of ask them, in terms of what kind of things are you right now really wanting to do for the blog and the things you're working on?
Okay, I've been developing content, but that takes time. So I know there's plenty of resources out there, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, but the challenge is identifying the right next step, considering my audience. I mean, my market is seniors 64 and older, people who are getting ready to get on Medicare, or people who are already on it and need to reconsider their choice. So that's my question: is how do I tap into that right audience, given that small bit of data?
I honestly, I got to tell you, Facebook. only because of the targeting options that you're going to get. Well, you're going to have to do advertising, unfortunately, and it's, their targeting is so specific, and you probably want to find pages that are similar, doing something similar to what you're doing, because it's going to be harder to target those people on Twitter. And I don't know that LinkedIn has that kind of targeting at all. But Facebook definitely has that kind of targeting. So you probably will want to start there. That's going to probably be the easiest, but there is going to be an investment. So you just set yourself a limit. Just to say you're just going to do like $100 a month or something like that, whatever you can afford, and just set a limit and give yourself a time and say, wait, if this doesn't work in 60 days or 90 days, then I'm going to try something else. But I would start with Facebook.
And I think the mistake that a lot of folks make with Facebook advertising is that they try to sell right away. The thing that you should really look for there, because again, it's like, think of it as I talk about a lot, is the idea that Facebook's this kind of big cocktail party, and the worst thing is to be that guy that like is pushing their business card and like trying to sell something right, sell insurance right there on the spot. What we really want to do is say, hey, call me. Like kind of, I've got some ideas about how you can improve, say, your Medicare coverage for less money or something. So have like a lead magnet, like a report or something or a video series that like will entice them to go to click and give their email address to continue the discussion. That's definitely the best way to kind of use the leads you get from Facebook, not to try to right there sell them on the spot and stuff.
Excellent point, John. Excellent.
Steve, do you have some kind of advice about possibly using Twitter or LinkedIn for Morris?
I think he needs to actually define who his target audience is a little bit better, to be perfectly honest, before he even starts. Because all he's done at the moment is give us demographic information. He needs to actually sit down and work out what problems he's going to solve. He needs to list three problems that he's going to solve. He needs to work out what roadblocks his potential audience have got, that they're not going to buy because of, they're not going to do this because of. What's their issue? Work those out. He needs to work out their purchasing cycle. The people he's targeting might have different people that make the decision with them. He might target the wife, but the husband makes the decision. He might target the husband, but the wife makes the decision. He has to work out the purchasing cycle. And again, the decision making, priorities, is what's going to come up that's going to stop him going that way. To me, that's more of a buyer persona than the demographic stuff. Once he's done that, I would actually start with a blog, and I would write and pay people to write. You can get writing done pretty cheap, and get writing his blog posts. You use Bill's short form posts, push them out there till the search engines start. Your blog is the center of your social media universe, whatever online universe you want to call it. Everything starts with your blog, and if you write to answer those questions that I've just mentioned, you'll attract people to you. And then when you start using the social media channels, you've got content then to push out to them. That's what I would advise.
Yeah, and I guess definitely really goes back to Bill then, and like just identifying the content that the audience is really interested in. Bill, do you have some kind of tips that you want to kind of share with Morris in terms of just really honing down on who his audience is and what their interests are?
Well, you guys have touched on all those points, but the reason I think you do that is Morris first must establish himself as a credible source. And the way you do that is by putting good, high-quality content on his blog site. Steve mentioned that right off, that if he doesn't have 300, 400 articles that deal with his topic on his website, he doesn't have anything to push. If he writes 10 articles and puts it on his website and starts pushing them around, somebody's going to show up and read those 10 articles and say, well, okay, what else do you have to say? 10 articles doesn't establish credibility. I know Morris. I love Morris. We're friends. But right now he doesn't have enough credibility. I wouldn't buy it from him because I don't know him yet. I know him as a friend, but I need to know more about him. I need to know, has he thought about me? Has he thought about them? Has he thought about this? And you need, Steve mentioned the sandbox earlier on. You need to climb out of that sandbox. The only way you do that is by solving a lot of problems for a lot of people biding your time. So I put my head down for about 5 or 6 months. I'd answer as many tangible and relevant questions as I could in my field, even if it's redundant. Even if somebody else has already answered, I don't care if somebody else answered it. I want to know if you can answer my question. So establish your credibility, put your head down, get on your website, build a depth of archive from your website that you have so that you can retweet them on Twitter. If you don't have anything, if Steve didn't have anything on Twitter, he wouldn't have anything. It's because he's working so hard that he can now use Twitter to his advantage. If he didn't have a depth of content to push out there, nobody would care what he has to say. The first thing Morris needs to do is build his website, build up his credibility.
Yeah,
Now,
the one thing. Sorry, I was going to say that the one thing I would add to that though is how you kind of can, build up that credibility. Also, is other than like kind of curating, which is one strategy and stuff, but beyond that is really connecting with the sources. And so that's one of the things that I have to admit that like my kind of selfish desire from setting up these hangouts and stuff like that is I'm kind of basically connecting with some of the top minds, and that's kind of establishing my credibility as somebody recognizing who these folks are and what kind of great stuff that they're putting out. And it's not to say that I'm an expert in content marketing or social media, but because of that kind of a little bit of the guild by association thing and stuff like that, that it's going to elevate me as somebody who kind of is a connector and like at least where it's kind of like the Steve Osher kind of approach and stuff. He's just by simply bringing together some of the top minds in different areas of internet marketing and stuff, that kind of creates him to be somewhat of a hub, and especially his website too. Like kind of that also, and his Facebook page and all different places that he's at and stuff. So I think that's one strategy you can use is if you start connecting with some of the folks like who are recognized for their expertise and stuff, and besides just simply regurgitating, spitting out recycling their content, is just kind of like developing the relationships, and then kind of ideally the guest posting thing is really key if you can get them to guest post. But of course that's harder when you don't have an audience, and the way you get an audience though is like as Bill said, you need to start having really good content on your own site, so then you start kind of building that momentum that then will attract the people that then will also give some of these other folks some interest to post on your site and stuff.
Well, before you can guest blog on somebody else's site, you have to prove your own site worthy of somebody that they would let you guest blog. And so I'm going to go back to first you have to establish your own credibility. And the best way you do that is by putting high quality content that belongs to you, that originated out of your head, through your fingers on your keyboard because you thought of it, because you read, because you connected, because you socialized. Now, this is what I think, and here it is on my website. And just keep doing that until people think, oh my goodness, this guy's a thinker. I want to connect with him. If you don't have that, nobody wants to connect with you.
Now, a question I have is, okay, you're aware I don't have a lot of content. It's a very new site. And getting from where I'm at to 400 or 500 posts is going to take a while. How quickly do I want, I could go put 400 articles out there tomorrow.
No, you can't. It won't work. It takes about 5-6 months.
Okay.
Spread it out over the next 5-6 months. You cannot speed up credibility. If you put out 400 articles by tomorrow, I'd say you bought them or you finagled it. You can't do it that short. I'm sorry. I got to split it in about 5 minutes. I don't mean to cut out on the discussion. I just want to say, John, thanks for doing this.
Absolutely.
Something nice about me, but I really do have to go.
No problem, Bill. Thanks as always. Really appreciate your leadership and definitely helping to connect all of us. So thank you again. Yeah, so I'm gonna actually right now kind of go back a little bit to we kind of mentioned already is about challenges and stuff. But so let me hit on maybe the last point before we close out today is what's the biggest takeaway for yourself today? And so I guess we'll start off with Ms. Eileen. What would you say is something that you took away from today's session?
Well, I have to say that I really thoroughly enjoyed the presentation that Steve had prepared, and I kind of wish I had prepared something myself. But what I really liked about it, and what I hope that people will take away from that, is the concept of having a strategy. And I understand that's what Morris is trying to go after. You need to develop a strategy. No matter what social platform you get on, you need to know why you're on that platform and what you want to get out of it. That way, and by looking at your analytics, as Steve went through and showed us his analytics, by doing that, and set yourself some time limits and say, like say maybe 60 days of doing something that you've decided to do. If it's not working, then you may need to go to another strategy. And it's great we're on this hangout, and we're giving information, but also read books, not just blog posts, because you'll find everybody's got an opinion, but try to find some of those books that will give you something a little bit more solid. So I just want people to think about their strategies, and then that way they'll have something they can build upon.
Awesome. Morris, what would you say is your key takeaway so far today? We've covered a lot of stuff, but I'm just kind of curious what's kind of something that you feel is going to be actionable over the next 30 days, say.
What I like is everybody's perspective. Each person brought to the hangout a different perspective of accomplishing pretty much the same thing that we all want to do. We want to find people, and we want them to spend money, put money in our pockets. And listening to each person talk about it, there's certain timelines for each one. For example, you spend money, you can get your product in front of people more quickly. If you don't spend money, it's going to take a little bit longer. And there's going to need to be a mix in the whole process that, okay, as I build up the site, it's taken a while, like Bill said, 4 or 5 months, and fine, what am I going to do for 4 or 5 months? I'm not going to suck my thumb. I'm going to go out and do something else, like as Eileen said, the seniors are out on Facebook, and probably women are the more targeted buyer than the men are. It's kind of like my dad. He came home with the new car, and he handed my mom the payment book. And so that helps me a lot in the fact that we're going to have a little mix, and the strategy is going to be a mix, and it's going to be the right way of doing that mix to make it work more effectively.
Sounds good. Steve, I know that you were the one that presented such great information, but hopefully we kind of offered something that you find that added to your takeaway.
I love listening about other platforms. I can't take on any other platforms because I'm very time poor, but I love listening about YouTube, and Pinterest, one of those that really interests me, and Instagram. I just don't have the time. You see, my biggest problem is time. And I do Twitter a lot, I do it well, and I do LinkedIn very well. Because I generate leads off LinkedIn directly. You don't have to go anywhere else. Again, it starts with the blog. But my takeaway is other platforms. Explore the platforms and find the ones you like, because you're going to spend a lot of time on those platforms.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that I'm taking away today is that I really want to look at how to basically scale up more of some of the different things I'm doing, because I have to admit that I tend to do maybe a few posts here and there and stuff like that. And one of the things I've really seen is that that my impressions really dropped for Twitter from when I first started and stuff, until I started using Tweet Jukebox. And I think actually I got this from Eileen too, is to use that, and that's really kind of brought up my impression rate from to Twitter, and it's just really echoes and amplifies what you're saying, Steve, that you got to have those multiple impressions over and over again to kind of really ramp up. And so that's going to be my big takeaway, is kind of figure out my strategy then to do that. So that's something that I'm going to really work on. So thanks everybody. This has been awesome. Once again, I just can't thank you enough for your different contributions and stuff. I'm going to see, as I mentioned, Steve, I'm going to see if maybe we can get your presentation on SlideShare and then send it out to everybody. Would that be something we can kind of work on? Okay. All right, and so we'll definitely provide links for that. So that's all I had, unless anybody else had any last kind of parting shots and stuff. We'll just say goodbye and until next time.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Okay, thanks everyone. So I'm gonna stop the
Okay.